I'm going to be reviewing The Game and the Governess by Kate Noble. There will be some spoilers. So I never actually heard of Kate Noble before. Apparently she's written a decent amount of books, but my husband and I were going by our local Kmart because they're going out of business, and they were having their big going out of business sale, and they're in their last couple days, so all the prices have been slashed a whole bunch. So I saw this and I figured for like $3 I might as well give it a try because the back sounded interesting, and I actually really enjoyed it. It deals with Edward Granville and Phoebe Baker, and Edward is the Earl of Ashby, and Phoebe is a governess. Years ago, Phoebe was she was a well-to-do lady. She was in school, and her father, I think, was a gentleman, but he wound up making some really bad investments with this one guy, and wound up losing all of his money. And he wound up dying, and she was no longer able to continue school. Fortunately, one of her teachers was able to help get her trained and set up to be a governess. And so that's what she's been doing for the past 5 years. Well, before she left school, she learned that this guy her father had invested with had also tricked the Earl of Ashby, because she found a letter from the Earl of Ashby to her father saying, "Don't invest with Mr. Sharp. He will steal your money and it'll be terrible. But please don't say anything about this," because the Earl didn't want it to get out that he had made really bad investment decisions. And Phoebe is so pissed off at the Earl because he should have made a public announcement or gone after this guy, because he ruined her life by not going after Mr. Sharp, and ruined her father's life. And so she was so pissed off at him. She sent him this letter and everything. Well, it's 5 years later now, and she's working as a governess. And the Earl, he's all sitting high and mighty, and he's talking about a story back in the war and how he's super lucky. And all the while, his friend John Turner is getting really annoyed. His friend is also his secretary. They were in the war together, and his friend came to him and needed some money to help restore his family's mill. And so Edward felt kind of bad for him, and they were friends. So he's like, "Okay, well, you can be my secretary. You can make a ton of money." And so he's like, "Okay, I'll do it." Well, John's getting really annoyed at Edward because he's like, you're so annoying." And Edward was saying, "Well, maybe you wouldn't be so annoyed if you just, got a woman." And he said, "Well, it's not easy to get a woman when you're a secretary." It's like, "Well, you should try it." And the Earl's like, "It would only take me a week to get a woman, even if I were the Earl." And so they make a bet. They are going to go out of town for a month, and they're going to switch places, because nobody in this place would know what the Earl would look like when he's older. The Earl grew up there, but he was like 14 when he left, so nobody actually would really know what he looks like. So it's really funny seeing how Edward is being treated without his title. They think he's a secretary, and they think John is the Earl, and so they trade places, and they both have their difficulties, and some things they find they like, some things they find they really don't like, and it's just really funny watching them trade places. And what's really nice is that the romance doesn't actually get going for a while in this book, and that's not usually a bad thing, because you want it to sort of happen. They don't just see each other and like, "Oh my God, you're so hot." No, it doesn't really happen like that. And so Edward does kind of notice Phoebe, because he finds out she's a lady of good breeding, so she would count if he can. He either has to get her to profess her love for him at the end of the month, or he has to get 3 things. He has to get a personal item, a dance, and intimate knowledge of her. It doesn't have to be sex, but it has to be something like, oh, she has a mole on her boob or something. And so he has to do this within the month, and he's finding it really, really difficult, way more difficult than he would. And so he's just kind of talking with the governess, and he finds out, oh, you're a lady of gentle breeding. You count. And John notices this, and they're not supposed to be allowed to sabotage each other, but he keeps trying to do it indirectly by saying, by telling the host family there, like, you should really keep my secretary away from your governess. You know, he's not really necessarily the best type for her. And, you know, that goes on, and he's getting really, really nervous because if he loses the bet, the Earl gets to have his mill. The Earl just wants his mill so that his friend will stop being so dour and sad and everything. But if John wins, he gets 5,000 pounds to restore his mill. And so he's really, really, really trying to make sure that he doesn't get with this governess. He's like, how are you, like, you were having such a hard time with this, and then you find her. And so all these things happen, and, you know, eventually, well, she, of course, you know, she tries to avoid the Earl like the plague. And, of course, Edward eventually finds out the reason why. And, you know, there's some stuff that goes on with that eventually when he reveals himself to be the Earl. But it was really good. I was very interested in the plot and the romance. I was also very interested in the romance too. And it felt a little bit more innocent, I think, than some of the other books I'm used to reading. Although, I mean, there was sex, and it was good, and I liked it. But it all felt it was sort of very innocent, and in that way, it sort of immersed you into it a bit more. And I just had a lot of fun with it. It's a longer one. I mean, it's over 400 pages, and I really, really had fun with it. Yeah, I would definitely pick this up. I don't know that I would reread it because there is so much plot involved. It's really funny though. There's a lot of funny stuff in it. If I ever had to reread it, I don't think I'd be sad about it, but I'm not sure that I will. But I do like this author. I'm glad I found another author to look for her books. So yeah, hopefully you found this helpful, and I will talk to you later.